Something unusual is happening. For the first time in modern history, many young adults aren't just delaying having children, they're deciding not to have them at all. Birth rates have been falling across much of the developed world, and the effects are already showing up. Schools are closing. Hospitals are closing. Small towns are shrinking. Businesses can't find workers. Entire communities are aging. This isn't just a story about family choices. It's a story about economics, relationships, and the future of rural America. So why are so many young people deciding not to have children? Well, the answer is far more complicated than most headlines suggest. So what's really happening? I'm Becky Roberts. I'm a professor of communication, and I'm a farm girl originally from southern Wisconsin. Welcome to my channel. I've been teaching in higher ed for 30 years, and I have had the honor of working with thousands of young people over the course of my career. My college has 3 campuses, and my favorite is located in a small farm town about an hour from where I live. And one of the classes I teach is interpersonal communication. And as part of this class, we discuss things like dating and marriage and family dynamics. And we've had some incredible conversations in my classroom about the hopes and aspirations of these young people. Many of my students would love to have a family, but they don't believe it's going to be possible for them. And in this video, I want to address some of the major reasons why they feel this way. For generations, I think people just assumed they'd have kids. It wasn't necessarily a conscious decision, and I certainly thought that I would. It's easy to hear about declining birth rates and conclude that younger generations simply don't value family anymore. That has not been my experience at all. Many young adults still say they'd love to become a parent one day. The gap isn't necessarily between wanting children and not wanting them. It's between wanting children and then believing that they can realistically provide the life they think those children deserve. That is a very important distinction. And there are reasons why young people feel this way. So let's start with the obvious one: money. Housing costs have risen dramatically. I live in southern Michigan. It is almost impossible to find a 2-bedroom apartment in a safe area for under $1,800 a month. Childcare can cost as much as a second mortgage. The cost of healthcare is completely off the rails. Education costs continue to climb. Even groceries and gas have become significantly more expensive. Many young adults feel like they're barely keeping themselves afloat. Adding a child doesn't just increase expenses, it changes every financial decision for decades. For previous generations, people often assumed they'll just figure it out. But today's young people are far more likely to ask, can I actually afford this? And many of them don't believe the answer is yes. Another reason, finding a reliable partner. This major factor receives much less attention. Many people don't want to raise children alone. They want a stable, supportive relationship first. But finding that partner has become more difficult. Marriage is happening later. Dating apps have dramatically transformed how people meet, but they haven't necessarily made relationship building easier, and in a lot of ways, I would argue, made it harder. Many young people have experienced difficult divorces in their own families and are cautious about repeating those patterns. Others simply haven't found someone they trust enough to build a family with. If having children depends on finding the right partner, and that partner never comes along, or in my case, I met him when I was almost 40, parenthood gets postponed indefinitely. Another reason, financial responsibility. Increasingly, declining birth rates may actually reflect increasing financial responsibility. Many young adults don't believe it's fair to bring children into unstable circumstances. Instead of asking, can we make it work? They ask, can we provide a secure life for our baby? Can we buy a home? Can we afford childcare? Can we save for college? Can we survive if one parent loses a job? These aren't signs of selfishness. They're signs that expectations for parenting have changed. Today's parents often feel pressure to provide constant enrichment, extracurricular activities, and significant financial support well into adulthood. The bar feels much higher than it did decades ago. Another reason, the loss of extended family. When I was a child, my grandparents were a huge part of daily life. When my niece and nephew were little, they had an entire auntie posse, taking them to activities and paying for school supplies, providing free babysitting so my sister and her husband could get a break. My parents were very hands-on with their grandchildren. We were incredibly blessed as a family to have such a solid network. For many young families, the extended family no longer exists. People move hundreds or thousands of miles from where they grew up. Grandparents might still be working. Extended families are scattered across the country and in some cases across the globe. Neighbors often don't know one another. Many parents are trying to raise children with very little help. That means every sick day, every daycare closure, every medical emergency falls on just one or two adults. Without family support, raising children becomes dramatically harder. Now let's drill down on how this impacts rural America. Declining birth rates affect every community, but rural towns often experience the consequences first. Many young adults leave small towns for college or trade school or better paying jobs, and many of them never return. That means fewer people in their 20s and 30s. Fewer marriages, fewer births, and over time, elementary schools shrink. Eventually, schools merge or they close entirely. When schools disappear, families become even less likely to move into the community. Local businesses lose customers. Employers struggle to hire workers. Healthcare providers have fewer patients. Churches, which have historically been the backbone of rural communities, they start to close. Volunteer organizations lose members. It's a cycle that is very difficult to reverse. And as fewer children are born, the average age of the community rises. More residents retire. Fewer workers replace them. Tax revenue declines. Demand shifts from schools toward healthcare and elder services. None of this happens overnight. It actually happens very gradually. A kindergarten class loses 5 students, and then 10. Then an entire grade disappears. Years later, the effects ripple through every part of the local community. So can rural communities reverse this trend? Some are definitely trying. They're investing in affordable housing, expanding broadband internet, supporting local childcare, offering incentives for young families, creating jobs that allow young families to stay close to home. Others are encouraging remote workers to relocate. Some have seen success, but many are still struggling. The challenge is that no single policy fixes declining birth rates, because there isn't just one reason why people aren't having children. It's bigger than individual choice. This conversation often becomes political. People argue over culture, economics, government policy, personal values. The reality is that all of these factors interact. Young adults, like the ones in my classroom, are making deeply personal decisions within economic and social systems that they didn't create. Some don't want children, but many do. But they feel they need financial stability, a trustworthy partner, affordable housing, and a support network before taking that step. If several of those pieces are missing, parenthood gets delayed, or it never happens. Declining birth rates aren't just changing individual families, right? They're reshaping towns, schools, local economies, and entire economic regions. Rural communities often experiences these changes first, but they are unlikely to be the last. So whether birth rates eventually recover, then it's going to depend on more than personal preferences. It will depend on whether younger generations believe they can build stable, affordable, supported lives. Because for many people, the question isn't, do I want children? It's, can I realistically give them the life I hope they have? And the answer to that question may shape the future of communities for generations. If you found this discussion interesting, please like this video and subscribe for more content about social trends shaping our future, particularly through the lens of rural America, which doesn't get nearly enough online time, in my opinion. And I would also love to hear your perspective in the comments. What do you think is the biggest reason young people are having fewer children today? Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.